Hello, everybody. It is Sam, the Reclaimer developer, and well, I think if you've been subscribed to my channel, I think it's fairly obvious that I haven't been very active these last couple of months, really. And uh, so I just wanted to take a few minutes to just kind of talk about like what the heck is going on and like where the heck I've been and like everything that's been going on. So, and I just do this. I just like using the whiteboard for stuff. So, first I'll just go over some personal updates. So my entire family has just been very, very sick, over the last couple of months. Yes, months. I think, yeah, I did tell everyone that like my wife and I had our daughter around this time a year ago. And that's been going like absolutely incredible. I love being a dad. It is just like the best thing I've ever done and best thing I've ever experienced. There's really nothing else like it. Well, she started daycare. My daughter started daycare a couple of weeks ago, and this is just something that happens when kids get sick or when kids start school. They get sick. Schools are basically petri dishes. My wife and I are big advocates for vaccines, and if you don't believe in that, I sincerely don't care. But even still, kids they catch things and they spread things, and well, that's just kind of what happens. So, um, well, whatever cocktail of disease juice she brought home, it hit all of us really, really hard, especially my wife. And I'm not going to go into personal, like, I'm not going to go too much into detail as to like what's been going on there, but it was kind of scary for a little bit, like just in terms of like this is not just like a simple like flu or cold or something. It's not like another pandemic was started or anything like that. It was just like um you know com- just like the sickness was just getting worse and worse and worse. And it was scary for a little bit, and we were all just like extremely tired. But it was my intention to start doing like higher quality videos right around that time, and things just didn't work out. And it's like life happens, you know. So and this also isn't my full-time job, you know. It's no excuses, but this is not what I do for a living. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a game programmer. This is something I do whenever I have the time, if I'm being honest. And it's a trend that I see very. It's it is a little upsetting and disappointing, because everybody wants to be a trendsetter when they have an idea, you know, and everybody thinks that it's really easy to accomplish a goal and be consistent. But like it's like you can accomplish a goal, but being consistent at like providing updates and everything like that, building a community, that is incredibly difficult. uh, and I'm still coming out of a little bit of that sickness as well. So, but uh, I should have said this, but like everybody at home is fine. Like that. Let's just get that out of the way. Nobody's in danger. Everybody's fine. Everybody's healthy enough to sort of go back to business as usual. Mostly, um, I have been taking some time to take care of my family. They've just sort of been like my number one focus for like the past couple of weeks, and that has just been something I've been. I'll be honest. When you're watching your wife and 1 year old get sicker and sicker and sicker, it to the point of needing medical intervention, it's a little stressful, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I wasn't really thinking about what was going on with YouTube. So um, however, I did do an interview with my wife over regarding like the book that she wrote a couple of months ago, and we recently went to a convention in Louisville, PopCon, I believe, Louisville, Kentucky, and she sold a bunch of books and short stories, and that was really successful. So I really do want to like give my wife a shout out. So the this isn't really a personal update, so this is more like wife update. But the Red God, uh, I will link a sort like a the video I did with her. So like I'll link the video, and I'll link the like the book on Amazon. Uh, it's an incredible read. Like I've heard a lot of my wife's stories about like her childhood and uh you know, the experiences she had, and putting it in story form. It was just different. Just hearing things or like reading things that way, and I think it's a very inspiring book, very encouraging book. I would, and there's also mystery and supernatural stuff going on. I highly recommend checking it out. Uh, but yeah, um, we've just been tired and busy. But that's really all for personal updates. So what was the channel about? So like the Reclaimer, like what's going on with that? Okay. Well, there's a couple things that like I that have been going on with that like sort of in parallel, and I would say number one is like the game itself, uh and two is like the website, right? So one is like the thing that will that it's like I just want to star this point right here. It is not going anywhere. Okay. So the Reclaimer is not going anywhere. It is like a very long term project, right? I have no idea how long it's going to take to get that done, but um, there's just still a lot of question marks, right? Like, I would say it's not going anywhere, but like, we got to be like realistic. Like, be realistic, right? So, like one is funding, right? And like it's a very large project, and you know, a project of that scale just requires a certain level of funding that I do not have. There are things I can do, and the things that I can do are the only things that I'm currently working on. So what I can do is working on low level systems, right? So uh, I am working on low level systems for the Reclaimer. Um, this is, and I'm gonna get into this later, like what my actual goals are for my channel, and what like the direction I want to take everything, right? So the Reclaimer is still in progress, right? And there's things that I've been talking about with a friend of mine, and you may have seen some of his content, us talking together. Um, but I don't want to jump the gun and start making promises and saying, oh, a lot of all of this other kind of stuff is going to happen. I don't really want to talk about like the things that we have talked about until like nothing is, you know, actually in progress, or like, you know, I'm just not going to make promises until you actually see us doing things. So all I'll say is just like we are talking. There are talks about getting, you know, people on board who can help with things like art, music, and what we want right here is like a tangible demo, right? Or you could also say proof of concept. Okay? And so this is sort of like what makes the reclaimer, right? Because I don't want to say story writing is easy. My wife would feel a disturbance in the force and come in here and give me a very angry face if I said that in earnest. But story writing is one aspect of writing a game, right? So you got to have a like a concrete timeline. And I would also just add to number 4 is like the story, right? Story slash timeline, lore, script, whatever you want to call it, right? So there's a lot of things that are going into that are just sort of being working out the details, right? And I am a programmer, and I'm not a game designer. I'm not an artist. I'm not a, you know, I don't do any of that. Like, I can do some, like, I can at least sort of like try to find style that may fit, or consult with other people who can help me achieve a style so that I can communicate that, enough to like express myself and say, hey, this is the vibe that I'm going for. But at the end of the day, I'm a programmer, and I'm not just any programmer, I'm an engine programmer, right? And that isn't to say I'm like, it's not like another like level of elite like black belt programming. That's not how programming works. It's just saying that like the things that I think about are things that are not the game itself, right? So I'm not really thinking about game logic. I'm thinking of like whenever you cross a like a load boundary in a game, like if you a character crosses like a threshold in the level where the game says, okay, I need to load assets for this next part of the game. That's the kind of stuff I'm thinking about, where it's like, how do I make that transition from one part of the game to the next as smooth as possible? And all the things that you're not seeing, how can that go as smooth as possible to not break the immersion of the game? That's the kind of stuff that I think about. And it's not because, like, I have to do a little bit of everything at this point in time, right? Because, it's all me right now. So, and none of this is excuses. It's just saying, like, this is where I am and this is where I hope to be going. Okay. So, and I'm just going to start this again. The Reclaimer's not going anywhere. Life has happened. When I had a timeline for the demo, but life, you know, plans change. And until I have some kind of contract, where I have shown, whether it be investors or crowdfunding, however it is, and I'm sticking to my guns on the things that I did in my very first YouTube video on the channel, where I talked about, like, here's the project and here are my goals for it. This is not going to be a rug pull. This is, I'm using an engine that I laid the foundation for myself, and we are going against the mold, against the grain on this one, because and this is what I'm going to get to next, but it's like all of this has to be like, what would I say is just like, this is priority, right? These are things that have to happen. And there's other things like side stories, comics / graphic novel. I don't know if I announced that yet, but surprise. I'm working on just sort of some things that like build the world, right? And sort of bring awareness to the game. I want to put stuff in people's hands, right? And things have to happen, and a lot of things have to go right and in sequence for that to work. So, but before I get into like other goals, number 3 is a game that I'm calling It Flies By. Right? And so this one, It was inspired by, uh, well, if I'm being honest, my daughter. Uh, and I'm gonna just put like happy face and hearts. That's a terrible heart, but um, so there we go. Um, I want my daughter to have the childhood that her mother and I never got to. Right. Um, we are doing a lot of things that we wanted to do now that we wish we could have done as children. And so it flies by is a couple of things. One, it's 2D. It's a 2D like story game. And the premise of the story is to not let life, because life flies by, take advantage of it, while you're here. Um and it's the story of, so there's this kid, right? And he is graduating college, but his grandfather recently passed away, and his grandfather was this very eccentric, like, engineer roboticist who was from Ireland, right? And he had a lot of stories and things that there was also a lot of things that he wanted to get done, and he wanted to spend more time with his grandson before he passed away, but his grandson was very busy with college and didn't get to spend a lot of time with him in his final days, right? Well, he gets a package at the funeral to take with him back home. He opens it up and there's a little drone in there. And it starts flying around, and it actually has the consciousness of his grandpa in it. And and the main character's name is Connor, and the little drone's name is Jig. Because the grandpa is Irish, and so I got the name from, like, dancing a jig or something like that. And Ireland is, I've been there twice at this point. It's the most beautiful place on earth, in my opinion. My wife would disagree. She likes more tropical locations, but I am more of a woodsy wilderness type person. So, not that we aren't, but it's like, we take turns. I want to do a vacation going on like an adventure in the woods, and then she wants to do a vacation going to a beach. So, we compromise. We take some time to see the world from each other's eyes every now and then. Well, uh, and a couple of things I want to note about the game. This one is completely open source, which I will link the GitHub to. Yes, it's open source. There's no caveats. There's no like gotchas. There's no nothing. It's just on GitHub. Go download it. It is very, very, very in its genesis. And again, I'm just gonna like star this, and I'll even link it. I'm working on the low level systems for it, but also I'm gonna say this right here. So you're gonna see something in that a submodule called the reclaimer libs, and like what those are is like those are officially my platform specific libraries that I use for like managing platform resources like files or memory, and the stuff that I use for like bootstrapping and just kind of spinning up applications and tools fast, right? So it's stuff that it's sort of like my own implementation of something like SDL or GLFW or something. And is that right? Just like not just window management, but like resource management and stuff like that. It's like my stuff from more of like a data oriented perspective. And yeah, so those are the two repositories, and I will link them, and I'll just say like reclaimer libs, and that's going to be the foundation for the reclaimers engine, right? So the Reclaimer is a massive project. It Flies By, I'm hoping it is a much, much smaller project that can be done in a year or two. Like maybe by the time Nora's a little bit older, that's my daughter's name, Nora. She's a little bit older, and she can actually play it and appreciate it a little bit more. So and yeah, so 4. Now let's actually talk about this. What are my goals? So, and I'll also put it like this: mission statement. So first of all, this is hard, right? It's hard. Um, because someone like me, I just want to do everything. I'm bouncing around. I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I like all of it. You know. Um, so please excuse me. It has been a long 2 weeks, but I guess the best way to put it is um, like everything is interesting to me. Like everything I've written up until this point is like there's not a whole lot of there's a lot of things that are not related to games or the game engine or something like that that are going on, right? This was originally about the Reclaimer, and now it's like, well, is it? Well, I also talk about software, and I also started this new thing. It Flies By, and I'm making open source stuff. I'm doing all these tools, and I'm talking with other people and bringing them on board to talk about things that they like. And it's like, what's going on? Well, um, there are there's a lot that goes into um, making games, and I can't do it alone, right? And a lot of things that I'm doing, there's like a common theme with people that I talk to, and the things that I point out, and the word that comes to mind is countercultural. uh, I'm gonna bring this down a little bit so y'all can see. Um, so I do a lot of countercultural stuff, right? So um, games have been a passion of mine for a long time, uh, as long as I can remember. Um, my first computer that I have ever seen up close was I think it was an MS DOS machine. So it was a terminal sort of computer, and it had 5 and a quarter inch floppies. Like this is actually when floppy disks were actually floppy. I can't remember how little data was stored on them, but like if you wanted to like launch a text editor or something, you basically would have to like load the disk in. Like and it actually had uh so 5 and a quarter inch floppies, they basically have a like this thing that you turn down that like locks it in place. Like how those computers were built back then were just so satisfying because they had so many like buttons and levers that just went chunk like whenever you had to like put something in it. And hard drives were around, but they were very they were expensive, and it's like you got to be privileged to have one of those, you know. All of your shit is basically stored on 5 and a quarter inch floppies, like even the programs, like you would basically put in the program, the disk for the program, load it into memory, and then you could take that disk out and put in the disk that has your shit on it to like do some work. And sometimes that's even how the operating system was loaded. Like put in disk 1 for the OS, now put in disk 2 for the OS. Shit was all kinds of crazy back then when we were still sort of on the very low end of Moore's law, and we didn't know how to we didn't have the means to pack as many transistors into a small space as we do today. But I remember when it booted up and I saw the little amber lights, like it was like sort of like this orangish yellow color. Like it was totally black screen, but the terminal was like amber-ish, like kind of like my glasses a little bit, but much brighter, or like the color of my shirt. And the pixels, there was something about seeing it, and then I see like solitaire being played on it. It changed my life. And I was like, I knew at that moment, I was probably like 3 or 4, but I was like, I want to do something with this. Like this right here. Um, I feel it like, it's almost like I could feel like an entire, like a door was opened and there was like a lifetime of possibilities and potential. And that's probably where my journey started. Well, computers have come a long way since then, and software has also come a long way, but it's also regressed quite a bit. Um, there's sort of this cultural, um, I guess, mantra that's being taught that, like, you know, companies like Microsoft and Google and Facebook, they set the standard for what software is, and even Apple.
All right, but first you'll have to unlock your device.
Okay, so that was my. I said the G word, so my phone is now spying on me. But well, software is being written in such a way today that like we've taken the engineering out of software engineering, and now it's just software developer or code artisan or developer. It's like there's not a whole lot of engineering being done. Um, and I've learned a lot in my probably 12 plus years as a software engineer, like actually working in various engineering fields. And I have seen the decline of like quality software, right? And one of the industries that where this comes out the most is video games. I remember when a game came out, and the I guess like the height of like when I was gaming was sort of like the PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 era, or PlayStation 4, Xbox 360 era. And even and like even like Wii, I never owned a Wii, but I had friends who had it, and I remember what it was like to basically sit around eating pizza until like the wee hours of the morning. People were like passing out in the living room, uh, going into food comas from and staying up late, playing video games. Halo 3, Gears of War, um, Little Big Planet was another one, and it's Super Smash Bros. You name it. Um, that was like peak gaming to me. And when the days was like Windows XP was still popular, and Steam was really starting to pop off. Um, and there's sort of been this cultural shift from when games just worked. Of course, there were things like DLCs. I mean, even Halo 3 had a DLC at some point for, it was like $5 and it was like a map pack, you know? Um, but like $5 was, it's like I went to the store, I said I would get an allowance, not an allowance, but like, I had like change, and I'd be like, hey, I want, um, money to buy here's my money, give me the DLC, and, well, things are very different now. Things don't work. Games are not the same quality they used to be. But what's crazy is a lot of games look gorgeous nowadays. Like you can actually see the pores on like skin on like live rendered scenes, but like the stories are shallow. The games are bug ridden, and they have no soul, you know. And it's like you go back to the days of, you know, uh, Mario Party around the Nintendo 64 at Christmas time or something, and it's like, what happened to that? And that's what I want to bring back, you know. And also, there are just these lies that are being told where it's like, let's go over some lies, right? So must use must use existing engine, right? Must have billions, millions and billions, millions and billions of dollars, uh, and I don't know, like you could just keep going, and it's like software, um, like basically software, uh, you know, is magic. Software's magic. It's like, the arch mages over at Microsoft have basically said this is what software is, and you will write software in what we say, right? Or even academics, right? And Microsoft and universities, like as far as like how things are being taught, are hand in hand, because people either receive scholarships or they get curriculum. Basically the trendsetters over at Microsoft are saying this is how software needs to be written. Well, it's like every time someone at Microsoft, higher up at Microsoft, has an idea, things are going to get ugly in a hurry for everyone. And I'm rambling at this point, but it's like these are lies, right? These are lies. What is true is this stuff is hard, but possible. And so being countercultural, going against the grain, is not easy. Um, and that's what sort of I want to portray my goal, my mission statement. I'm still working on like, basically condensing that down to like one sentence. Like, what's my mission statement? But I want to turn the ship around, or at least I want to show people what's possible. It's like whenever Microsoft or the G word, any of these other big players in the industry come out with an announcement, it's like, hey, we spent billions of dollars, and, hey, this is as good as software is ever going to get, or, any of these other disparaging things, people just ignore them. You know what I mean? And it's like, yes, you develop the operating system, you develop Windows, and there's like things that we have to work with. This is what we have to work with, so be it. But I'll remind you that we went to the moon multiple times with less memory than a TI-84. Don't quote me on that. But like, it's like if you go to a museum and you take a picture of the flight computer, uh, it's like the picture of, like, if you pull out your phone and take a picture of it, it's like that has more memory. That picture is larger than the program memory of those flight computers, you know, and they were built in such a fault tolerant way that like there's this awesome presentation from this from an engineer who works at Cisco, who gave a talk on the robustness of the Apollo flight computers. It was glitching the heck out on the Apollo 11 descent. So basically, when the Eagle was landing on the moon, there was basically like a data, there was an overload, right? There was a bug where there was a system that was running that was not supposed to be running, and it was overloading the computer with data. And if that happened in today's world, there would be like exceptions within exceptions, and you know, hard restarts, and God, I don't even want to think about it. It's like if we had the space program, like the lunar program today, it's like, holy hell. I'm not saying that software like at NASA is being written like that, but people were actually engineering back then. Like we were doing a lot with very, very little. We have a ton, like exponentially more power, hardware, and hardware is cheap. Memory is cheap. And, we, it's like, and, we can't make text editors that, load files fast and won't crash when you're trying to undo a mistake. That's the easy shit, you know? And so just trying to turn things around and teach people it's like, this is possible. This is what you can do. If you set your mind to it and you have the, patience to learn something and open a book and just open a text editor, download a compiler, and start working. You can learn. There was this poster I saw in college that was really cool. It was a picture. It was the periodic table, and underneath it, it said, "Now create. Now go forth and do something with all of this information." And that's kind of the message that I want to come across with computers. It's like people are not aware of the power that they have at their fingertips. And there's people who want to be engineers and want to be programmers and want to learn how things work. But universities and very large, I hate using the word corporations, but very large corporations are basically telling us, well, this is the path that you have to take, and this is what you have to learn, and this is what you have to do, and this is what you have to work with. And it's like, no, none of that's true. A lot of the stuff that I know now about concepts of like data oriented design, I learned all of that outside of university. And it helps with opening doors and exposing you to things that, are very, very niche. What I do, in my professional career is very, very niche stuff. But outside of that, being able to make games, being able to make something you enjoy, being able to actually learn, it's right there in front of you. So this has been a very long-winded rant, and there's just all this crap over here. I really don't know what to say about it other than things are very slow, but they're still moving. It's moving at like a glacier's pace, but they are moving. I don't know what the next step is going to be, so it's just like, what's next? I thought about, doing classes, like actually teaching people how to like set up like, environments for programming, like for dev, doing stuff on data oriented design, like practical, just random stuff like that. And I know my community's small, but I believe that a community of 30 deserves the same respect as a community of 30,000. So, if you stuck around for this very long talk, I do appreciate it very much. There's nowhere you can donate. I can't ask for money right now. And I think what everyone deserves at this point is consistency. I would like to do more streaming, but life, it was my intention to do a little bit more live, get into more live streaming a few weeks ago, but I had no idea that my family would be so sick. And that isn't me complaining. It's just life happens. So um, I'm working with what I have, and I appreciate um, I appreciate you watching. And you know what? I'm just gonna end it here. I'll see you in the next video.